When Raina Lermer heard that Shineng Qigong can be a tool for all phases of life, she was wondering, how about healing at the end of life? Being a volunteer at a hospice, she realized that Qigong is a powerful gift for all involved, the person transitioning, but also to the family and loved ones. And she knew to keep an open heart and open mind, because even when dying, everything is possible. My name is Thorsten Lüdecke, and this is the Wisdom Qigong podcast.
First of all, I just want to take a moment to express my gratitude for taking this time to delve into all the different capacities that Zhenan Qigong can help us. And Zhenan Qigong being a tool. I was inspired by Master Liu in a China retreat, and I believe 2016. He was very passionately sharing that Zhenan Qigong can be a tool to support so many levels of our life. And he brought up the end of life, actually. And in a 360-degree story, I came to Zhenan Qigong through being a hospice volunteer. And so we supported people walking with them, at the end of their life. And I met Zhenan Qigong at a volunteer appreciation day. They were a Qigong demo, and they were happening to share the opening of level 1 Ho Chi Up Po Chi Down, and I knew that was the rest of my life. And so I took the journey with Zhenan Qigong for various years, and by then I think I'd been practicing for maybe 6 or 7 years at least when this China retreat occurred. And in the moment that Master Liu said, even helping people leave life, something clicked inside. And I said, I want to come back to working with this population, because we know that in this life, no matter what practice, no matter how powerful, how potent, we are all going to leave this body. There's not a practice on this earth that'll tell you you will live forever in this body. The life is about transformation. And so although we talk about healing in Zhenan Qigong, and healing is possible ultimately, truly, and I've seen this happen many, many times in my life in Zhenan Qigong, healing can absolutely happen. The question is, what is healing? What is healing? Many of us in our society, we believe healing is a cure. There's a difference between cure and healing. And so curing is no longer the discomfort, no longer the disease in the body. And healing, in my opinion, is so much deeper. It's so much deeper. Cure can happen from healing. Healing not only deals with the physical body, but also deals with the emotional, the mental, and if we want to call it spiritual. And so this is why I was, once again, my passion to support these people at the end of life, because in that time, there's many changes, not only in the physical body, but if someone's willing to be able to fully awaken. Because at that time, there is no, what I've come to find, there's no mask. People see, it's in a way like looking in a mirror and not being able to look away to say, my time is becoming shorter. And so ultimately, each one of us, we are alive until the moment we stop breathing. So I felt very called to support people to awaken themselves, to open their hearts, to open their minds, because my intention for working with this population is to support them to be at their highest level of consciousness at the moment that they transition. And so, again, when Master Liu shared, to bring Zhenan Qigong into the world in all the levels possible, I said, I will take this route because I've already done this. But I didn't have the tool, this amazing tool that is Zhenan Qigong, to be able to support with pain management, to again support if they need to do any heart work, any healing for themselves, of forgiving or forgiving themselves, to find the mental clarity to what needs to be done externally and internally for them to. So I feel that healing at the end of life is such a powerful gift, not only for the person, but also for the family members. And I know that, we've experienced life. We're all living beings, and we've experienced loss at some point in time. And when someone is transitioning, it may be in a moment, and it might be, a long journey. And so the family also has to navigate. They're also each in their own journey. And people deal with transition in different ways. And so of course, my work is to focus on the person that's going on the journey, and then also in a way support the family surrounding them.
That's fantastic work that you're doing there, Reina. And I heard that there's, a couple of levels you're working with, also on the practical level. For example, when you spoke about pain, we know that Shineng Qigong can help relieve pain. So it helps you to, from the physical body to help stabilize certain conditions so that, life is easier for the person dying. But it seems that the focus is really on the emotional and mental healing and on the consciousness work, so that we are basically at our best when we are transitioning. Is that what you're doing with your work here?
Yes. I feel that is a very, I personally can't say, none of us can really say, what happens in that moment with certainty to say, here's my proof. But I feel, why not? And as I also shared before, that every single moment we're alive until the moment we transition. And right. So why not, in a way, we all are on this journey. We are all on this journey. So why not awaken? Yes. Why not see what our potential is? Why not see how much we can open our hearts, how much we can open our minds? Why not see, even then, the self-healing abilities? Again, in the last moment, I'm no longer surprised at how surprised I get when I see what many people would call a miracle. Anything truly is possible. Anything truly is possible. And so I go in and work with, the client, and, I'm also very practical, logical. Ultimately, it's their intention. I'm not there to give false hope, but I'm also not there to say, okay, let's just take the time until you're gone. Make the absolute most of it. And ultimately, their intention, their journey is what's guiding the process. So I would add that up until the moment of transition, to be at the highest place possible, if we want to call it high. I know it's not necessarily the deepest, the most open, and but also the journey leading up to that, to see what is possible.
What I like about this, among many things, what I like about it, it also requires a mind shift, because in our society, we are kind of conditioned to work towards something. So it's a little bit like, why work with dying people? Because their life is over soon. So it's not worth investing into that. But what you are saying here, you're completely doing a change in the mindset here, because what you're saying, every moment, no matter when in your life, has the same value. Whether there is a future, so to speak, or no future, doesn't make a difference, because a moment is a moment. And we are so conditioned to always think, okay, I'm doing something so that my future is better, so that I can reap rewards in the future, while really, living fully is the opposite. It's about being in the moment. And I know I'm talking about something you're an expert about, because even your business is called Present Moment Living. So I love that idea, because no matter where I am in my life, and no matter whether I've got another 50 years, 10 years, 1 year, or 1 day, that moment I'm having right now is just as precious as any other moment. So what I make of it is all that matters. And I think that mind shift is important, because it's a bit like otherwise, like, yeah, okay, there are dying people, so why bother, right? But it's the opposite, actually, because these moments are just as precious.
Yes. And they're precious on so many levels, and because they're so powerful. There's so much, for me, I look at time, there's a depth to it. There's a depth to time, and where are we willing vibrationally to be in that moment? And, as I've worked with many people walking this journey, there's been, I get so much, I actually get so much out of it, because the gifts that they have to give to those around them is so, yes, I'll say absolutely precious. Like in the movies, I've had people like grab me by my shirt and they say, live your life, because mine is leaving. They're, week in, week out, I would go to them and they're in the same bed, and so I would go in, even with my mindset of supporting the gifts that they give to those around them, if they're willing to open up their hearts. And, yes, as you shared, our society, we're conditioned in such a profound way to not want to grow old, to not, if there isn't, I'm doing something for this future, that there's lots of programming that we have. And that's why many people cannot deal with loved ones when they're passing, because it is a mirror to them to say, one day this will also be you. And
Right.
we can't accept that. And we can't accept that. But if we are in oneness, many of us don't ever think about our own death. And I feel that really considering that, if we really connect to that, it actually helps you live more fully, because you know that all of this one day will transition. Everything, changes, transforms. And so when we can accept that, what is there to fear in this life? There's really nothing, in my opinion,
Yes.
and in our life, we die thousands of deaths, there's so much that we quote unquote lose. But if we are oneness, this is just as natural as being alive. And when we accept that and we open to that, imagine in someone's life, if someone's, in the dying process, many people have a hard time accepting it when it's happening to them. And so why not be that open heart instead of, turning away for their own, I would call it selfishness. They don't want to see the pain or feel it, but this person needs us. So it's a population that, again, like you shared, it's easy to discard, but one day that'll be us. And more than that, because in the oneness, there's so much to share and there's so much to learn from everyone at any moment in time.
We have a way you can discover Qigong. So at the Chineng Qigong Students Hub, we know that understanding Qigong is very important. And also that Chineng Qigong in itself has various nuances that people can't easily comprehend. So we've approached it in the style of a video game. On this page, Discover Qigong, you can select your character. So you can either be a beginner, a practitioner, or a holistic healer or self-healer. And you click on your character and it takes you to these different sections. In these sections, you can explore the nuances. And when you click on a card, all of the resources pop up, and we've made it really fun, and not many people know about it. So if you are interested, have a look and discover Qigong.
And on a practical level, Raina, so when you go into the hospice and you meet someone for the first time, how do you introduce Chineng Qigong or the ideas, or how do you start working with these people? I mean, you already said that ultimately it's their agenda and what they want to achieve that you respect, but you must have some approach of how you integrate Chineng Qigong into that stage of their lives.
Yes, up until now, many people have actually been referrals through Zhenan Qigong, or they heard of Zhenan Qigong. And actually, many people, it's relatives. And so they hear about the qualities of self-healing in Zhenan Qigong, and they reach out to me because, I'll give an example, like a son has reached out to me and they want their mother to heal. They're in a way not necessarily accepting what's happening. And so then working with the mother, she was already unconscious, actually. She was that in her journey that she wasn't conscious. And so I still worked with her, organizing the chi field, and for several days. And her physical body was transforming in a way that the son was like, something is happening right now. She literally was cleansing, not to get too, bodily functions were moving that had not been moving at all. And so her physical body was cleansing itself from the field. And, she transitioned. But her son later, about a week later, messaged me and said, that was exactly what we needed. And I didn't realize it in the moment. I was holding on to having my mother still be with us, but I couldn't accept it. And you supported us to go through that. And so, I always say it's not me, I'm just a vessel. It's life, it's life itself. But so to answer your question, many people are referrals. Either they don't care what it is, they want to see the healing, or they already know Zhenan Qigong. And so when I speak to the client, first let them share where they are, what they need, and then, educate. I look at myself as an educator, just sharing information and seeing, how they resonate. Of course, I'm already setting the field and, connecting in that way. And people have been very, very responsive. Sometimes people need to experience it first before I say, okay, this is this. And other people are more cerebral, they're like, what are you going to do? And so being very in the moment is very powerful because at least for myself, I don't have a system to say, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this, right. Because it's very raw time. It's very raw time in people's lives. And so I navigate and see what comes when it's necessary.
So the focus is building the chi field, and then it starts more like a conversational healing that you're doing with them, using the principles and ideas of Zhenan Qigong. And then, if there's an opportunity, you'll introduce maybe a little bit of La Chi, or depending on how mobile they are, have them do some exercise, some physical exercises with you as well, so that they can get in touch with whatever that means for them. Is that what you're doing?
Absolutely. Right. Always.
Right.
And then if they can't move, I guide them through meditation, whatever, whatever the moment calls for. But, to walk them into the journey of Zhenan Qigong in any way that's needed in the moment, and then build from there. And again, sometimes people are also on heavy medication. It's a spectrum within this population of, 1 week they're doing great, another week, very difficult. And so, you have to be prepared to read the field and see what is needed. But all of that is absolutely what I share.
Now, you're obviously a very experienced practitioner and teacher, but what I pick up is that if I have a situation at home, for example, where I have someone in that stage of their lives, really what it needs is a core principle of Zhenan Qigong, which is open heart, open mind. And with that alone, I can probably do the work. Maybe not as sophisticated as you would do it, but that doesn't really matter, because it's the intention you're coming from that will make the difference to that person. Would you encourage people to just approach it with this way, or do you have any other practical advice if I'm in a situation and I have a loved one who is about to transition from life to wherever they are going?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. I'll say yes to both. When, and as I shared before, we don't realize how much someone may need us at that moment in time. And so as an example for me, I come into a family, everyone is like, they're overwhelmed, they're going through everything, and you just come as a happy heart, a loving heart, accepting them in their physical form, accepting them, being so present, hearing every word, like really being there for them in that open place. So powerful, so powerful. That right there is like all you need. So I'll say, for those that, the family members, just see them as that bright light that they are and always will be. It just might not be in that physical body. So absolutely, I encourage, do not walk away from people that are in this stage of life for many reasons. And there's so much healing that occurs when you're willing to sit in front of the person, when you're willing, even if they share the same story over and over again, listen to it, treasure it. So powerful. You're never going to regret the time you spend with someone during that stage even though if they go through it, whatever they're going through, you will be a beautiful beacon of light with your training, your practice. And, there doesn't have to be any official training. I personally went through a training outside of Zhenin Qigong called End of Life Doula Training. And it's a new, I'll say an overall new training, but there's many different trainers now in the world that they're starting to see. Of course, everything was left up to hospice before, but now they see hospice as much as the great work that it does, and end of life doula work together. End of life, we're not medically trained, but it's training in a different way, because if you're not familiar with the end of life process, there's stages. It's, everything from 6 months, a year, actually, I'll say, and if the person is meant to pass, there's stages, and weeks before the body starts to show different signs, days before, hours before. And so out of, curiosity, if those that let me feel more prepared, I would encourage you to learn more about the end of life process, because if you don't, as an example, I have a loved one in front of me, and a few hours before people pass, sometimes the breathing changes and it sounds a little bit dramatic. And if you've never heard of it before and you don't know about it and it's happening in the moment, that might be a lot for you. And so, or what senses start to shut down, or sometimes people see family members in dreams, or they feel things around them. All of that's normal. And so, but if you want to learn more, then you can be more prepared. But just having your open heart and mind is also great preparation.
I mean, that's very cool. And the truth is, as you said, very few of us ever look into death and are preparing for what does it actually mean, what's actually happening when we're transitioning. And so it's a very good idea to look more deeper into that and do some research and understand these things, so that you are in a better position to be with someone who is in this transition. So I think that's a really good advice there, Rainer. Now I want to touch something else, because you were also mentioning oneness a couple of times. And you and I totally agree on this idea of oneness, because we think it's just so obvious. There is no such thing as a separate Rainer and a separate Thorsten. It is all just one thing. It's our mind that creates the separation and says, okay, this is a table, this is a microphone, this is the leg of the table, but really, where does the leg of the table start and the table bottom continues? Nobody knows, right? Well, this is my shoulder, this is my arm. Where is exactly does my shoulder stop and my arm start? It's just not a physical reality. So reality is oneness. So if you take this into consideration, then it is more like as if a leaf is falling off a tree. The tree continues. Yes, the leaf might be falling off, but the tree continues, and it's all one, and life continues. So how does that idea of oneness integrates into the work that you are doing?
Yes. I would definitely say, again, those that don't, again, the mind, for us, it's so normal. I look at it, it's like if I open the door here to my office where does the air of the office and the air of the hallway, how can you, there is no separation. And so when I look at what oneness means, again, we are seeing a reflection of ourselves in everything and everyone. There is a connection some way, somehow. And for many of us, it's really beyond our understanding. But to be able to understand that oneness when that person is laying in that bed, or that person is, facing their own transition, that again is a reflection of what one day this body will go through. And so when you look at life in oneness, it's not, your heart is more open. Your heart is more open. You're more willing. You're more able to perceive that, we are connected. We are connected. And the oneness that I speak of in this aspect of the work is, like I shared, the gifts that people have to give at this time, the gifts that I have to share, that I want to share, during that time. And so we think of, I would like to think of us like a human tribe. And talking about tribes in indigenous cultures, completely different view on death. And, many, it's not about dying alone. It's like dying with everyone, it's actually like a birth. That moment of death is actually like a birth in everyone. If we think about when someone's about to be born, everyone's excited. Whoever's at the hospital, or if they're birthing at home, the loved ones are there, just like with it, like, breathing together almost. And this is the same. I would love it for it to be the same with those that are transitioning, because we're all going through something. When someone's passing in front of you, and that's an amazing field, I'll say that, the moment when someone actually passes, and we have the honor, and there's a whole nother talk I can talk about if you can consciously decide when to go. I believe that, and we've seen it before. It's nothing, wow. Someone can be dying, and, a son or daughter is across the world, and they wait for them to come, and then they pass. And so I would say it's an honor to witness the moment someone passes. They allowed you to be there. And the field is amazing. It's just the ultimate blessing that they're giving, in my opinion, as the moment that they transition. And I say oneness, you feel that. You feel that at the core. There's something beyond your understanding that you feel when something like that is happening. And I would say that would be the way to describe oneness. If you ever have that honor to the moment someone passes and you're in a clear place, not attached, just holding the space for what is, the information you receive in that moment is something I've never experienced in any other place, honestly. So, yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to add to this topic that you feel like we haven't touched upon?
I wouldn't necessarily say add, but just reinforce that the potential is there always, and for anything, but be aware that, everyone will transition, including ourselves.
Right.
And so to walk in that place when you're supporting someone, to just hold space, hold space. It's their intention. It's their journey. I know it's easier said than done. A mother, a father, a sibling, a spouse, a loved one. To be in that place of centeredness and not be attached, to say, don't leave me, I understand. But it would be, in my opinion, the best of service just to be love. And love doesn't hold. Love allows, in my opinion. So I guess I would add that to check your own self and how attached, because people, what I've seen, people will hold on if someone's not ready also. And this is what I said, how conscious can we decide, okay, it's time now. And I've seen people suffer greatly because another person wasn't ready. And, you know, that's their journey. And, you know, they both intended that way to be. Again, in the realm of oneness, there's something there for them to learn. But I would just say that, just to be love, just be love and allow.
I think these are beautiful closing words, Rainer, and I'm very grateful that you sharing all this knowledge with us and all this wisdom. Also, I think very grateful for the work you do with the people you are accompanying here. And hopefully some of the listeners will have learned something, you know, because we will all be in a similar situation one way or another. Not just as the person who is dying, but, you know, obviously many times before that, as the person who is there to be with someone who is going on this journey. So I think this is very valuable. And and I'd like to thank you for contributing to this podcast. And I've just before we started, Rainer is a very skilled teacher, and there are quite a few topics that she suggested that we might also discuss in one of the podcasts. So hopefully there are going to be many more episodes with you. And I might just add that you are also part of the e-learning course we are launching these days, the La Qi e-learning course as the essence of Jin and Qigong. So if you want to see Rainer again in the context of an e-learning course, check that out as well. So Rainer, I have to ask you that question. Has there ever been a situation where you were actually doing, with the intention of end of life healing, but the Qi was so powerful that you actually brought that person back into life, and he or she could leave the hospice and continue his or her life as a healthy human being?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why it's so important to have an open heart and an open mind, to be clear, just to be that love and that support, because their journey is the journey that they're meant to take. Their intention is guiding it. And so, do I share about the infinite possibilities? I absolutely give them that, because everyone around them is like, oh, you're dying, you're dying. So much information. And so if they have more within this life that they're meant to still be here, if everyone around them gives them this, from the diagnosis to everyone, loved ones, they're going to follow that. And so I always look to empower and share the infinite possibilities, say that the human, this is how I share Jin and Qigong, about empowering them, giving them the information that what steps are happening, they're leading the way. They're leading the way. And so I've had several people recover. And so, that, and like I said earlier, I'm no longer surprised at how surprised I get at these, again, what we'd call miracles. Because, and that's all you can say. And then you better believe they become Jin and Qigong practitioners.
I love that. I just imagine how that person who was in the hospice, and you open him or her up to the possibility, if you are not ready yet, if there's more that you want in your life or from your life, there's a possibility for complete recovery. And they kind of turn around, say, thank you very much, leave the hospice and continue with their life. So I think this is very powerful. So I just had to ask this question, because we all have heard of so many miracle healings. It's just, I didn't know whether this is happening in the context of the hospice, where basically everybody around them has decided this is it. So it is quite a powerful information field that where you need to crack an opening, and then it's either taken by your client or not, depending on which stage they are in their lives and what their individual journey will be. But I'm glad you've added that information, because we know that is possible, and that's also an information that's important for all our listeners who are in a position where Western medicine says, sorry, there's nothing we can do. Really, what they're saying is there's nothing we can do. And it doesn't mean there's nothing one can do. Yeah, there are many modalities, and Qineng Qigong is the powerful one that we know of, but there might be others. So I can only encourage people to look and without being attached to anything, look for opportunities for openings, and then who knows what's happening. So I'm glad we mentioned that as well, Raina. So thank you very much, Raina. And have a fantastic day.
Thank you. You as well.
We trust you enjoyed this conversation, and we invite you to subscribe to our podcast so we can stay in touch and notify you of future episodes. We will end today's episode with the 8 verses meditation performed by Qineng Qigong teacher Katrin Hendricks. Enjoy.
Ding Sing a song each
To get your free ebook on the 8 verses meditation, please check the show notes below.